Welcome to another episode of CXO-Talk, and I am here with my co-host Vala Afshar and with our guest, author Ekaterina Walter. Vala, how are you?
Michael, great to see you again.
It's very good to see you again, and I apologize. We once again had some technical difficulties with Google+. If anybody knows why sometimes Google Plus doesn't start, please let us know. Crowdsourcing technical support. Ekaterina, how are you?
And it's not user error.
It is definitely not. Well, it could be user error.
Depends on your cloud score. No.
That's right. If you have a high enough cloud score, then it's not user error. Anyway,
hi, Michael. Hi, Vala.
Hi, Ekaterina.
Ekaterina, it's great to have you. You wrote this interesting book called Think Like Zuck, but before that, you have a long career at Accenture and Intel, and now you're CMO of a new company. So tell us a little bit about your background, and let's then jump into your book.
Sure, Michael. So, golly, where to start? In 17 BC, most of my professional career, I have been on the brand side, so worked for global companies, have done a really, truly interesting project, have always been sort of international or worked on a global side of the organization, so I worked with a number of different geographies and cultures, which appeals to me because I'm an immigrant. In the last 8 years, it has been at Intel, and for the past 5 years, I worked as a sort of a social media strategist and innovator and helped transform Intel into a social business. So that was a lot of fun, just in the era of the now economy and the explosion of digital. It was quite interesting to work with some of the most brilliant people within Intel and in the industry to help define, what social business means specifically to us as a brand. And as of this week, I've announced my new role as a partner and CMO of Branderati, which is a leading advocacy and influencer marketing and relationship sort of a building platform. So I'm really excited to start working in that new role and helping brands get from, here's now we've built this amazing communities, now what? Well, now let's really, go from here's an enormous size to what is the meaningful engagement and relationship and building word of mouth actually means.
So you have an evolution from working at Intel to being a CMO. Now, where does the book Think Like Zuck fit in?
I have worked with startups on my own time and on the side for years. Even back when I was at Accenture, I've really helped startups with their business plan, with their marketing plan, sort of helping them pitch their ideas and their business plans to the investors. So have always had sort of a friends and people I know in the industry who would communicate with me, ask for my opinion, either it's brand opinion or just generically sort of building the business and marketing plan. And some of the interesting things I learned on both the brand side, where I call myself an intrapreneur, right? Sort of this entrepreneurial team or spirit within a large company, but then also working with entrepreneurs. I've collected a lot of sort of philosophies that successful people that start from a zero and paint the blank canvas and then go into towards disrupting the industries or just really driving change, whether it's a small way or a large way. What are those philosophies that really drive those successful people? And so I decided to write a book, Think Like Zuck, and Facebook is one of the examples in the book, but really it's a sort of a business book that talks about those principles and how you use those principles in your professional and personal sort of development and just overall career.
Well, congratulations on your Wall Street Journal best-selling book, Ekaterina. This is an awesome book, highly recommended for all executives, not just startups, CEOs, and certainly public company CEOs. But in the book, and also congratulations on Social Media Marketeer of the Year 2013, which was just announced this month. So you're just your trophy case is getting really big, Ekaterina. So that's awesome. Now I understand the 78 clout, which is I just wanted to throw that out there. So for those of you who watch clout, anyway, in your book you talk about the 5 Ps. You talk about passion, purpose, people, products, and partnerships, and that was the thesis and the construct behind the book. So, is there one particular P that matters more to a CEO or a business executive, and what's the main takeaway around these 5 P principles?
I look at it, Vala, that's a great question, because I look at it as a combination of things, and you start with sort of your own lens, right? So what are you passionate about? And that's how you see the world. There's opportunities that come and go continuously, but whether we see them or not is always based on the fact of our own passions and what we believe in, what is our purpose, what do we want to really do in the world. I think if I have to choose, if you're forcing me to choose, then I would say definitely I think people, partnerships plays a little bit into that, but the reality is there's no such thing as a self-made man, and this is true in everything you do or everything you try to build. And so it's important to understand how do you bring the right people on board, and how do you take the wrong people off the bus? How do you partner with the right people? Who are they? What does that mean? Do they share your vision and your passion and your purpose? And also very important for what you and Michael talk about all the time around CMOs, CIOs, CEOs. What is one of the most important things is building a culture, right? Tony Hsieh has one of my favorite quotes by Tony is, for individuals, character is destiny. But for companies, culture is destiny. And that is so true. So embracing the culture of innovation, culture of urgency, culture of empowerment, culture of naivete, embracing that and creating that map for what your culture should be when you drive to success based on your passion and purpose and your vision, I think is one of the critical things that the companies can do from the beginning. And if you haven't done it from the beginning, it's okay. You still can do it during the process of sort of development.
So is culture, would you say, one of the key lessons from the book?
Yes, I mean culture, and how does that culture really maps back to what you want to create? What is your why, as what Simon Sinek would say, what is your why and what is that purpose, and how do you map in that culture based on that purpose? I mean, if you look at everything that successful people do, even at how, for example, Mark Zuckerberg partners with Sheryl Sandberg, right? So that's sort of even the principles of the partnerships. It all drives back to one of the critical things, and why they're so successful together, why they're successful as a team, is because every single person they hire shares that vision, shares that purpose. But again, if you don't create the culture, your own culture, and when you hire people and bring partners on board, whether it's vendors or whether you work with customers, if you don't understand what that culture is, you're going to try to please everybody. Right. When you don't know where you're going, you're going to go for multiple different things, and you're never going to stand for anything. And so that's why, you look at cultures like Apple's, right? They appeal to a specific audience. Some people love them to death, and some people hate them. Why? Because they don't go after everybody. They don't go after every customer. They go for specific customer, right? Those who want to challenge status quo, those who are rebellious, right? They don't go for just any vendor. They don't go for any partner, just any partner, right? It all comes back to what is your culture and what is your purpose.
And is there a cultural fit test? How do they gauge alignment based on your research and in terms of making sure that they're committed to the purpose of the company? And it's certainly so it's more than talent. You really have to it seems like it's a good rule to hire based on attitude. Right. And train for aptitude. Is that a
yes, absolutely. That's one of the things I love to say. I know you tweeted that, Val. Thank you. Yeah. Is the reality that skills can be taught, but passion can't. Your passion and your vision that really can't be taught. Different companies handle that differently. Even me right now, we're working very hard to define for Brand Dorati what is our culture map looks like, what are our values, and how is everybody who participates and everybody's who's going to come on board maps into that. Zappos has 10 culture sort of criteria that they have, but they go even one step further. They use that criteria while screening people who are applying for jobs. Then they use that same criteria while training new people on the job. I think it's 2 to 3 weeks. After that training, they then go even one step further and offer people, here's a pretty good chunk of money for you, after all this intense training you went through, after the culture you saw, people who you're going to be working with. If you don't think like you will contribute your 150% and you're a really good fit for the culture, then take the money and leave, and and just don't look back. But there's a different things that you can put in place, and I think one of the things that the successful companies also do is put a barrier in place to application, shall we say. Facebook puts in the coding challenges for engineers up there to sort of filter them. Obviously, Vala, you have a Twitter hiring process now where you filter out people's resumes and you look at their social profiles and sort of their activity and how well they build a relationship with you. So I think it's a little bit unique for everybody, but if you don't define that, again, you will fall for anything, right?
Now everybody wants fans and they want brand advocates, right? I mean, people think of social media and brands, and it's all about magnetizing this audience to, in effect, turn them into robots to accomplish your goals as a brand marketer.
Right.
So what's your reaction to this kind of attitude? And in an authentic way, what are some of the lessons based on your research for helping to magnetize that fan base, but in a positive way?
It's interesting, Michael, because everybody assumes that, oh, well, if there is a tool out there, if there is, specific analytics out there, we're going to be able to easily just create that word of mouth, and everybody's looking for that silver bullet. The reality is it's all about giving a damn and making sure you do put your time and resources into it. It's all about caring. It's people to people, no matter what it is. We're so stuck into B2B and B2C world. It's, one person building a relationship with another person, and it all takes time and it takes love. That's the thing, right? Is we went from, well, we don't have, big followings. We have websites and maybe some, little subset of people come to us. Then we go, oh my God, look at all the shiny objects, Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. Now we've built this sort of grand communities, right? And so we're going from, here to here, and now we're having millions of fans on Facebook and, hundreds of thousands and millions on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. And now we're asking ourselves, wow, now we've created this big communities. We cranking out the content engine every single day to try to feed that beast, right? But now we're asking, what now? So now we want to go from large to back to small, meaning what is it your 1 to 3 to 5 to 10%, usually about 3 to 5% of those top advocates who love your brand, right? Who are they, and how do we engage with them in a meaningful way? Not just meaningful way, in a sustainable way, right? So you're going through this age of collecting a bunch of fans to back to smaller sizes but more meaningful conversations. And it's still okay that people are lurking and they're watching what you're doing, and you have larger communities. But now you're asking yourself a question. We're tired of paying 50 influencers who have pretty large following to blog for us, and that disclosure kind of somehow makes it less trustworthy, right? That, hey, by the way, I'm talking about this brand, but I'm paid to do it. And we also sort of, well, now we have a large number of communities. Where in between all of that does the true advocacy really lie, and how do we activate that? How do we start building movements instead of building campaigns? And there are a number of ways of doing that, but none of it is a shortcut, right? Sure. It's all caring. It's all identifying people in the right way and continuously engaging them. So,
we're my company is 1,000 employees, and about 4 years ago, we started using social technologies in our company. Right. We use a CRM solution, and they had a Facebook, Twitter like mashup called Chatter that we started using within our company to really aimed at getting our corporate resources closer to the field. And I'll use the word, but trying to humanize our business a bit. Exactly. And I look back 4 years ago, and I look at today, and it feels like it feels like a small town. You know, we know each other's names. You know, it feels like the doors are open, the lights are on after hours.
Exactly.
You know, it's more personalized approach of doing business. You know, where a student intern that works here feels comfortable saying hello to our CEO using his first name. Hi, Chris. You know, and Chris will respond back. And you know, so as you think about building fans into advocates, people who are committed to your business, who have the same shared beliefs in terms of your purpose and where you're going back to the Simon Sinek why, how do you do that? I suspect you have to deliver on your promises, but what's the advice you have for a company? I mean, you just came from Intel, and I'm talking Interisys at 1,000. So is there a core competency that companies need to convert fans to advocates?
You know, I think it's a mindset, all right? I mean, it's a mindset. So if you look at why, it's the same question as why are some executives are so engaged on social and they're really, you know, doing it in a human voice, like yourself, like Kim Stevenson, CIO of Intel, like, you know, like Padma from Cisco, et cetera, right? And why some aren't. And I think it's that mindset. It's cultivating that mindset internally, and goes back to culture. Because it's interesting, our lowest hanging fruit, our employees are right next to us, are those people who we can build, you know, even better relationship with, like you mentioned, like Zappos does, and unleash that in the marketplace and say, hey, here's people who work for us. They share our vision, they share our goals. Why not allow them to go talk? And we're not even doing that, you know. But here we are going out there and trying to recruit all these new customers, and we're missing the point. We're missing the point of right here, our internal advocates. Right here, there's external advocates, people who are so loyal they would tattoo your brand on their back. Hello, happened to Intel. No, seriously, it
That's
did.
Awesome.
Really?
That's
awesome.
Oh,
Absolutely. So you know, you look at that and you go, well, B2C brands, right? Harley Davidson, Coke, Apple, all these brands we love. It'll never happen to B2B brand. Well, it does. So one day, I wake up, I look at our Facebook page, and here's a guy, young man, sort of casually tagged himself on our Facebook page with Intel tattoo like on his back right here, and it's pretty darn large. I mean, it isn't small. And,
I have an Interisys one right here on the shoulder.
There you go. No. There you go. I won't tell you where mine is. So you know, you look at that and you go, no, that's photoshopped. There is no way. Even though you love your brand, you still have that reaction. Really? You know, and so we connected with him. We found out his name is Damian Bayliss. He is in his early 20s. He came back to Vegas. He came to Vegas for the first time from Toronto, Canada. And he loves Intel brand so much, he went to a tattoo parlor and tattooed Intel's logo on his back. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Yes, he was sober while he did that. And he actually made a video of himself. I mean, we just do not stop and take time to find out why. We just go, ooh, look at that pretty picture, moving right along, versus, hey, let's connect with that person. He's a diehard fan. He will recommend Intel brand to anybody. He's a techie, which is, you know, the rest of the world's kind of listens to nerds, and nerds is the new black, so don't knock nerds, all right? So you know, you take that person who's so passionate about your brand, and there's many of them out there. You know, there may be 1%, 3%, but still it's enough, because studies show, and that blew my mind when I first started seeing that data. Studies show that 10% of population holding an unshakable belief in something can actually impact and influence the rest and sway the rest of the population. As a matter of fact, it's not only the case in once or twice, it's almost always the case. And scientists seeing that time and time again. So who is your 10%? And why aren't we engaging them? And again, it does take time, it does take energy, and that's why I joined Branderati's, because that's what we enable. We you know, build a platform to enable identification, engagement with your best advocates, and also measuring, you know, what that means for your brand. So to me, it's a very exciting time, and it's age of advocacy.
That's awesome.
So Ekaterina, we have a question from Twitter, and let me just say that you're watching CXO Talk, and if you have questions, send them on Twitter to #CXOTalk. So the question is, how do you get your audience to really want to be your advocate and not to feel that you're just trying to sell them something?
Absolutely. You know, just genuinely, just like you would talk to your friends, talk to them the same way. And here's an interesting thing. Everybody is afraid of social. I mean, hopefully we're past that, but people still do. They hold that sort of a fear. To me, the unhappy customer, which is keyword customer, is the golden opportunity to turn, you know, and negativity and maybe temporary anger into a loyalty, right? And we're afraid of people like that. To me, grab onto that person, hold on, provide the best customer service, make sure they're darn happy, and you just got yourself a loyal customer. It might actually take 3 minutes of your time. It may take 10. It may take several days. It doesn't matter. But that is your chance to build those advocates, build those people who are part of the movement you're trying to create. That is to me amazing. The other day I see Gary Vaynerchuk, actually, a great guy, a total role model for turning not even prospective customers into customers. I mean, just people, random people out there. He goes on tweets and says, okay, what do you need? How can I help you just right now? Just tell me what you need. And then one guy says, I just need eggs. I just want eggs. He goes, what's your address? Seriously, what's your address? So an hour later, the guy gets, 200 eggs, just several dozen eggs in this box delivered to him saying, hopefully you have a nice day. We're here to fulfill your every need. There you go. And he blogged about it. He posted a video about it. You obviously can't do that with every single person, but just offering it up and following through, and really building those relationships. And it is one-on-one, and it's one by one by one. Yes, you can't do that with the millions of people, but every single time you make a difference, you build advocacy.
I love, Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, the Crush It was his first book, and Thank You Economy. And the Thank You Economy he wrote, fantastic books, highly recommended. He said, what's your best marketing strategy? Care more.
Yeah, give a damn. Give a damn.
Give a damn.
Yes.
Give a damn.
Yeah.
Actually care.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's, and I think that's the key element, is there's a level of authenticity that has to be there, but it's not being social. It's not hygiene. It's health. To be socially fit, you have to exercise. You have to eat well. You have to get plenty of rest, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time to become socially fit. And I think you wrote a post in Huffington, I believe, or Fast Company, that said, "Do you want your business to look human? Have your CEO use Twitter."
That's right.
And so, in terms of converting fans to advocates, is there, and I think I know the answer, but a culture of gratitude and empathy? How important is that to be a connected company and really really create that advocacy that companies need to grow?
Well, so I'll give you an example, right? So Kim Stevenson, Intel CIO, saw this tweet from one of her employees, not even working for her, somewhere really deep down the chain. And he said, hey, boss, I just created my first mobile app. Really excited about that. She tweeted right back. It was late at night. She tweeted right back and said, I'm really proud of you. And it was mentioned in the same article that you're talking about, the one I wrote on Fast Company. She said, this is our future. I'm really proud of you. Thank you. And then she mentioned that as an example to when she did a big town hall with all her employees, and the guy jumped up and said, that's me, I did it. Imagine the morale you're building. Imagine, awesome. And that's just an internal example. Awesome. Imagine the love you're creating. That group of people, seeing how you treat people that isn't even manager or a VP, but like really a hard worker somewhere down the line. She's like, now I know more about what he does than probably his boss does, right? So imagine if you can build up morale internally, you can do the same things externally. And it's funny, people keep saying, oh, it's just all so fluffy, and it's humanizing the brand, but at the end of the day, we don't have time, and it all requires, a thoughtful approach. Yes, it does. But imagine the benefit that the company is getting when the crisis breaks. right?
Oh, yeah.
Crisis breaks online, and
Absolutely.
the first person journalists and analysts and the rest of the world are going to is your CEO. Why? Because he's on Twitter, or she's on Twitter, or he or she blogs, and
Right.
you're so used to that. You're using that person as the first resource to double check whether this is rumors or whether this is really happening. And suddenly the brand has this way to impact whether this crisis blows up,
Absolutely.
or whether people actually hear your point of view first versus everybody else. I mean, if that isn't business impact, what is?
How do you move away from this kind of sense of kumbaya? Because I mean,
Right.
I understand what we're talking about and
love kumbaya.
the value, the importance, the necessity of expressing that type of genuine love and caring. But at the same time, the analyst half of me says, this is a lot of kumbaya, and tell me how to actually do it. How does a large company actually bake this in a practical, meaningful way so that we can get concrete results in a reasonable period of time as opposed to just kind of sounding good?
Right. Exactly, and that is the question that everybody should be asking. And there's a number of companies out there doing an amazing job out of that. So let's take Microsoft, for example. Right? Microsoft has not necessarily been a brand with all the positive, buzz out there. They have a program called Microsoft MVPs, and so this is a group of people. They've had it for a number of years who don't get paid to advocate. They just love a brand. They do need to get their certificate, so they need to take a couple of actions to actually get their sort of badge of honor, saying that I am Microsoft sort of ambassador and MVP, and they do get some preferential treatment, or they get invited maybe to some of the Microsoft events, but they don't get paid. They are people who voluntarily speak for your brand. So then when Microsoft is in a position where they're getting a lot of negativity around their brand, who do you think jumps in and defends that brand, right? These people do, which if you can change the mind of some of your customers about your brand, you pretty much can guarantee that the people will come back and probably buy something. So there's always the return on your investment to activate those advocates, not just collect them, to activate them, to have a relationship with them. I mean, word of mouth, there's been a number of studies that's been done out there that says the word of mouth does drive business impact, right? Social media drives business impact, but only if you do it in the right way. So, which is, I just collected a lot of, not as in I collected a lot of people here and look at my large communities, I got a little bit of press out of it, but as in I actually really, truly care. So then you start actually driving back to business results. So I'll give you an example. So one of the brands we're working with is, we have this network of advocates that we built for them, and they've gotten a week before the new clothing line goes into the stores and becomes mainstream, available in the mainstream. They've gotten an opportunity to go get those items, buy those items ahead of time, right? And so through that network, or through that platform and network we established. And so now you have all these people saying, oh gosh, we love this brand. We got an opportunity to buy this new jacket or cool pants. Now they're going out there, they're tweeting about it, they're blogging about it, they're taking pictures and sharing like crazy. What do you think is going to happen impact-wise when that clothing line hits the stores and you already have all those advocates who talk about that brand, who have pretty good community outreach, whether it's online or offline, and people spreading word of mouth for a little bit of a time before you actually have a product in stores? What do you think is going to happen? The sales go up, right? As long as you know how to recruit those people and who those people talk to, right? They don't have to be influencers and have huge communities. We'll look at it as advocates here, influencers here, but there's always something, the portion of it in the middle where they overlap. So you have your advocate influencers who kind of have a good reach in the community. They're pretty active, and they have also that love for a brand, right? So finding those people in the right way will definitely help drive business impact for you.
Sure.
Absolutely.
We have a question from Twitter, and the question states that for the most part, we all get the importance of being social and collaborating, but how do you get the board, how do you get the executives to buy into this connected, collaborative ecosystem? And you are credited for really transforming and driving social at Intel. So here you have a 100,000 employee company, and you've been able to successfully promote social and collaboration within this fantastically large organization. So can you share with us and answer the question through Twitter? What are some of the things that you did when you started to really promote collaboration, not just within Intel, but outside of the walls of Intel with customers, partners, and others?
Have you ever tried walking in the meeting with your executives and Googling their name and seeing what the top 10 results come up with, right? Or Googling some of your competitors and showing how amazing how amazing of a job they do with their communities, and showing some of that data. I have to tell you, highly effective. But in all seriousness, really, if if that doesn't work, I think it's a lot of it is about education. If you look back of when we started, right, there's still a lot of brands that tell me we are struggling with getting our stakeholders on board. So stakeholders like legal, HR, PR, et cetera, and they, that's the complaint I've heard for years. What we've done is the first thing we've done is to said, look, we're new to social media. We're not claiming that we're experts, but we will transform it into social business because we believe that's the right way to go. It's great. We have some support from our management, because our management did come in and say, look, we want to shift some of the budget from traditional media to digital. Tell us what that means. But that said, we said, look, we're about to put those guidelines in place. Why don't you come join us? So all the skeptics and people who have no idea what that is worked with us, learned with us, grew with us, right? And those who didn't, we did a very good job at educating, whether it is online classes with executives. I did a lot of one-on-one coaching, or whether it is just a roadshow. Hit the road, right? You said you saw yourself 100,000 people across over 50 countries. Hit the road, talk to them, bring people together, use the grassroots, those folks who are already doing this, who are already engaging in meaningful ways. Use those people to come on board and help you do that, and spread that advocacy around social and what that means and why this is important. And learn as you go, and don't pretend that you know everything. Just continue learning. I mean, I think the reason why we're so successful is because to this day, every single day, we'll learn what's going on in the ecosystem. We talk to different partners. I talk to a ton of brands to make sure that we create some sort of benchmarking, because that doesn't exist in the new industry like such. And so, education, staying on it. And I think the last thing that was interesting in our case that really worked is when we put the listening tools in place. So multiple sort of ways to listen of what the conversations that are happening. We actually did hit several crises in a matter of several years, and that was way back when we were just starting as well. And suddenly we are able to see, hear, and prevent something from blowing up because we are very savvy as far as listening to the conversations that are going on and actually engaging in them and addressing them in a very fast manner. We had very good map of a sort of crisis management kind of process in place, and we got stakeholders in the room. We addressed it pretty well. And we were very, very human in the process, right? So if we made a mistake, we admitted, etc. And that opened the eyes of our management to a lot of things where they say, wow, previously we weren't able to do that, and it's huge. And so there's one step after another step after another step, and you educate people as you go, and the rest of and you make sure that you bring the rest of the company with you. Just because you see so far in advance doesn't mean you're going to be successful. If the rest of the company isn't with you, at least critical decision makers, you're not going to be successful. So it takes time and it takes patience. Definitely. Truly does.
We're almost running out of time, but somebody from Twitter asks a really interesting question. This person says, most of the people that Vala and I have on CXO-Talk on this show have passion and have love. This is what the tweeter said. And this person asks, how do you get others to join on that bandwagon? Is there a way to do it? What do you think, Ekaterina?
Be passionate. I mean, honestly, I keep telling people I am a horrible salesperson. I can't sell you stuff. But when I'm passionate and I walk in the room and I sit my executives down and I say, look, this is what's happening. This is why. You do not understand. I stand up. I put my hands on the table and I go, look, this is why this is important. And look at these examples. Or look at all this work we're doing. And this is what you need to know. And I'm just exuding passion, right? That's what sells. I can pretty much guarantee you can bring a lot of people on board if you are passionate, if you are a true believer, if you are that 1% or 10% if you're lucky as a brand. Be that 1%. Be that minority that is trailblazing. And yes, you know, you gotta have some arrows in your bag because you're innovating. That's what who pioneers are. They're the ones in front of you with arrows in their backs, right? So I know it's gonna take work. I know it's gonna take patience. But do not forever run out of that passion. No matter what people do and no matter how long it takes you, do not run out of that passion, because that's what sells. And I think that's what people started telling me after a while is, you're so passionate about it. You got us into it. You got us to go look at it. You got us to do X, Y, and Z. And you know, if you have that, that's half the battle, if not more.
Well, I'm going to talk about an area that I know you're very passionate about. You've written a number of posts in Huffington and other publications about the state of women in business. And in one article, you noted that women launch more companies but are less likely to break the $1 million in revenue threshold. So what is a single piece of advice you can give to female entrepreneurs to help them grow their business and achieve the success that you have? And I'll just to put you on the spot, other than passion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I want to lead with passion, but you know, do not underestimate passion. I mean, right? There's been a number of businesses that's been unsuccessful for years until they hit huge success. I mean, look at Pixar. Job was investing in it for 9 years. You know, look at some of the others. I think there's a number of startups that we are now on everybody's lips that's what happened. I think it's confidence. It's the lack of fear and the confidence. And it's not just, look, have passion, but act on it, right? Because as women, a lot of times we ask ourselves, well, why is this happening? Why is there not more women on the boards? Why is there less women speaking? You show up and there's this event with this guys who speak most of the time. I will tell you why. It's because we don't raise our hand and say we want a seat at the table. That's what we want to do. We need to take responsibility for, you know, just saying no to the fear and taking our passion on the road, right? And sitting at the head of the table and saying, look, I want to speak up. I will volunteer to go, you know, speak. I will volunteer to take on the projects that are tougher. There's definitely a little bit of this subconscious, I think, bias that still exists, because there's certain behaviors we expect from men versus women. For example, when we give somebody an offer, and Vala, you've probably seen that a number of times, we give somebody a job offer, and if it's a man, we expect them to come back and negotiate. And if it's a woman, we expect her to just say, well, great, I'll take it, right? So it all comes back to confidence. Be confident enough to sit at the table, to demand the seat at the table, to speak up, and to act on your dreams, because that's what's going to get you there. So, and together, I think we're going to change that mindset at some point, is that the women can be in boardrooms, women can lead the companies. They already do.
I love your Pinterest posts that you share and you have for my daughter. I love the wisdom that you share. What's that?
Tumblr, yeah.
And Tumblr, yes. So you know, it's fantastic, and I agree with you. Confidence is competence plus confidence equals success.
Exactly.
I absolutely agree with you.
So the passion combined with caring combined with intelligence seems like a pretty darn good combination. And fearlessness, too, being fearless.
That's right. I keep telling women, you have to visualize that you have steel ovaries. People keep talking about, balls of steel. I'm like, no. Hold on a second. We might not have those, but look, you just visualize. It's like Lady Gaga says. She says she has this, and pardon me, for being maybe not politically correct in the way I say it, but Lady Gaga says, look, I'm just a 20-some-year-old woman, and I get up and there's all these people counting on me and all these fans who love what I do, and I have those days where I feel like just another teenager where I want to just kind of stay in bed and just ponder life and maybe not go out and do things. And then I remember and I tell myself, bitch, you're Lady Gaga, get up and get on with it.
This may be a title of my blog in Huffington. Yes. So you're giving me wonderful material.
Yes, I love it. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your expertise and your passion with us. Unfortunately, it's that time again, and we've been talking with Ekaterina Walter, who is the author of the excellent book, Think Like Zuck.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Michael and Vala. Thank you.
Ekaterina, you're awesome, and I am just, what an unbelievable high that I am on right now at the end of the week. I need to have you as a guest on Mondays. So
there you go. But see, that's all about passion. There you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you here same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.